All right, Nick. It's how long have we been trying to do a podcast together? You're muted.
I know. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to unmute. You wanted me to mute to start it off. So
I was just a reset. We were
okay.
Allowed.
This is the podcast that's been in like the 3-month making mark. So
way to manage expectations.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
What's on your mind? I don't have anything to say. That's not true. But let's pretend like I don't have anything to say. What's on your mind, Nick?
Well, I have lots of things on my mind, Royce.
Oh, how have you been?
I've been well, thank you. I've been well. We're getting that tricky New England northeast weather where you're like, oh, it's 80 degrees one day, and then the next is cold and rainy. Not quite like Florida, but you know how that is. You used to live here. You remember it, I'm sure.
I love the Florida weather, even the worst of it.
I was going to say even June, July.
Yeah, on both sides of the worst. I just love it. I've told you that, like getting up in the morning and walking outside and just appreciating that it's warm at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I get that. It's like I remember when I lived in Phoenix for a little bit, summertime was like the wintertime here. You just stayed outside less because you hid from the heat.
Okay.
And that's like what Florida is like. You hide from the heat and humidity.
Hey, or you get used to it.
I don't know. The humidity, no, I'll never get used to. The heat is acceptable.
You'll learn.
Degree. I don't think it's a learning thing.
No, you do. You do, because by the time you get to summer, I mean, by the time you've been living here long enough, when you get to summer, you know that there's going to be rain showers somewhere around 4 o'clock every single day.
Right.
And so you know that, like, the humidity is one thing, but the only thing that's worse is what's going to come after that rain shower. So you just learn how to manage it. Because the humidity is way worse. It gets way worse when the rain goes away, and then you have all of that water starting to evaporate off the ground, and now suddenly it's a sauna. And obviously I'm thinking about walking through the parks and all that, but in general.
Yeah, no, that's where I remember it from, and it was pretty gross. But I will say the dry heat in Arizona and out that way, for me, coming from the East Coast, is definitely doable. People will be like, oh, 110 is really hot. I'm like, well, when you don't have humidity, coming from the East Coast at 85 degrees and 85% humidity, it's night and day difference. So, but like I said, right now we're dealing with cold and rainy in the Northeast.
By the way, before we get into this, let me just take a moment to remind you about two of our most important sponsors. That's Colleen Herman. It's pamperedchef.com/Colleen Herman. And that's Russell. That's rklawpro.com. Russell at rklawpro.com. Off the top of my head, Nick, I hope those were right.
What was right?
Thank you. He wasn't even listening to the ad.
Oh, I was mute. I meant to mute my mic. I think I muted my headphones by accident.
I thought you muted your head. Okay.
Well.
So, I don't even know where. I have things I want to say, but we'll start with you. What's on your mind?
Well, we were talking the other day about.
After I said I have nothing to say, but go on.
Well, no, yeah, it's all a ruse, folks. Let's get, we do plan a little bit.
What?
Yeah.
3 weeks of planning, apparently.
Surprise, everybody.
No, seriously.
So I remember, like, we were talking a little bit about, like, AI and Chat GPT and things and how people can, like, implement it in their daily lives. And earlier this week, not earlier this week, but in general, as anyone knows that cooks for themselves or their family, planning a menu can be a pain in the butt, like trying to figure out what to make for the week, recipes and all of that, grocery shopping. So after a conversation you and I had, Royce, I was like, you know what? I asked ChatGPT to, I said, make me 3 recipes. I'm vegan, so I made sure I specify that. I said we have no food allergies. Make me 3 dinners, easy dinners, and also include a grocery list. Or actually, it may have even prompted me or asked me if I wanted that. So I was like, yeah. So it came up with, it spit out 3 recipes, and I said, okay, not bad. And I didn't like the first 3, so I was like, change it up. And it did. Again, it came out with 3 new recipes. It also populated a shopping list for me separately than the recipes. And it was great. I was really impressed with it. And like especially now, it's pretty apparent things are not getting cheaper anytime soon. And, people pay for these food and recipe apps. And, sometimes depending on what it is, you're kind of stuck with what they give you, where here it was free. I could completely cater it to my own self. And it was amazing. I mean, I even heard people that take pictures of their fridge or whatever ingredients they have at home, and it comes up with, recipes. So, I guess a little cheat code here is like if you want to figure out how to feed yourself or your family for a little bit, ask ChatGPT, and it'll come up with some pretty cool stuff that actually works and it makes sense.
Is that what's on your refrigerator now? Is your printouts of your recipes?
No. It was just 2 pages.
What took over the Kelsey Grammer position?
Kelsey Grammer,
it's just stainless steel, just wide open stainless steel.
I think some magnets just got rearranged.
Oh my gosh.
That's all.
So he practically got replaced by OEM parts.
Magnets aren't OEM.
No, but you need the OEM metal for the magnets to even function. Magnets are part of a fridge. Everything beyond that is. Listen, let's go back to this because you're a regular Dickie Simmons. I mean, look at you.
Who's Dickie?
Richard Simmons.
Don't call me that.
Richard Simmons. If you said everything you just said in a pink leotard with some jazz hands.
Give me 5 minutes. I'll go get my leotard.
I'll wait.
I'll go into my leotard drawer.
Not only will I wait, but I'll turn on cameras.
I can turn them off on my end as well.
I said turn them on.
Yeah, I can turn them off.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Anyway. So ChatGPT was great. It was awesome, and I look forward to using it even more this week, doing the same thing and just trying.
So you have printouts? You going into the store with a printout?
I go every time I go in the grocery store. I do. I have a list. And I'm an old lady, 100%. Sometimes I put my list in the basket, then it gets buried. I'm like, oh crap, where's my list?
My
and
Lord.
I have to rifle through and find it. I mean, to me, a list is way faster than.
I guarantee you, people think
faster.
Those are MapQuest directions, and you didn't know how to get to the grocery store.
No. I remember when I used to have my car, though. There used to be MapQuests all over the back seat,
sure, in color.
I would use it. No, we didn't. We couldn't afford color.
Your father wouldn't allow that?
No, that was a waste. But yeah, I used to you go somewhere, you're done, you throw it in the back of the car. I'm like, I'll save it for later. And eventually I would never use it again and just have to throw it out.
It's funny to think, was it really a waste? Because if you're only using a portion of each individual color ink, you know what I mean? Is it really a waste? You're probably actually using the same amount of ink, just spread out over different colors. Because it's not like it's thicker on the page. So it's a false notion. You just have to have 2 cartridges, and I need the color for my stuff.
Well, we never even had color print. We never needed color printers. It was fine.
I need it for my articles.
It was fine.
Wait a second. So you're walking around. You're like a little old lady. You're walking around with your MapQuest printouts in the grocery store. It said there was chicken soup.
Yeah. I mean, normally I have a list. I'll show you. I have these
I don't need it.
It's like a 4x6 sticky pad, and that's usually what my shopping list is on.
There's no cameras. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
No, we have cameras, but we're not. We're just doing all. I could put the video up, but you haven't told me if you're comfortable doing video, and I haven't asked.
Well, I gotta get my people in line on my end to make sure I look good on camera. You know what I mean? I get the lighting.
That's the 3-week delay right there.
Yeah. There'll definitely need to be some good filters involved.
Listen closely, and the truth will come out. 3 weeks to make Nick look good, and we still don't have video.
Oh, come on.
Listen to me. You're walking around a grocery store, okay, fumbling around for a stapled printout.
No, there's no fumbling. I'm a pro.
Okay, for your grocery printouts, and you're still probably the most sane person there, just looking from the outside in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you still are probably the most normal person in the grocery store.
I don't know about normal, but this
from the front looking perspective.
Yeah. But this particular time, where I live, it's let's just say cool, hip area in New York City borough, one of the boroughs. So, it's not narrowed down too much.
Manhattan.
the outer boroughs, Royce. People, but
Hoboken.
Yeah, exactly. Yonkers. No.
So I shop in Staten Island.
Oh my God. Anyway, we're not even
at Wu-Tang Groceries.
Yeah, right.
All right, now you don't know. Now we've confused it. Enough.
No, I know. I do know. But anyway, so
it's the Trader Joe's on Coney Island. Go on.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm in the grocery store. You were saying like I'm the most normal person there, which not quite, but anyway. So I am grocery shopping. I have my list. I have my little basket in arms, and there's a
it's like Little Red Riding Hood.
Pretty much, yeah. But I think I probably had a black hoodie on, so little Black Riding.
Just keep going. You'll get us in trouble somehow. I can feel it.
I know, right? So anyway, I'm in the produce section, and there's a woman there, right? And I noticed she has a dog with her, and it was a big dog. And I love dogs, not afraid of dogs. I'm not
in the basket. I'm sorry.
No. Like it's a big, not in the basket.
No.
Though I literally have seen that in that same grocery store. I have seen dogs, smaller dogs, where the kids are supposed to be, or in the actual.
Oh, they have that in Florida too. But go on.
So I'm grocery shopping, blah blah blah, checking things off my list. Woman with a large, and it's a beautiful golden retriever. You could tell it was young-ish, but not young enough to where it's like it couldn't be left at home or something. And I'm looking at this woman with this dog, and the dog's just pulling, sticking its nose in the different produce, smelling people, and I'm just like, what the is going on? Clearly this animal is not a service animal.
But even if it was, that doesn't excuse the health violations you just laid out.
Well, no. Yes, but as we progress in this conversation, needless to say, the way that dog was acting is not a service. That's not how service animals act, period. So it was very clear to me instantly that this lady just decided to bring her dog in the grocery store for the day. And I can't tell you how many times I'm in this particular grocery store, or really any store in the city for that matter, all of New York, where people have animals, dogs, and all this other stuff, whether they're carrying the dog, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in a shopping cart, whether they have one of them baby strollers with 2 or 3 little pups.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
And now wait, what was the corner you were on again?
We're not disclosing that information yet.
Just seeing if you're paying attention.
Yeah, people may be able to put some context clues together. But yeah, so I'm just clearly this is not a service animal, and it drives me nuts that people think that they are entitled to bring their dogs or animals, anywhere that they go. And it drives me even more nuts that the stores or restaurants, for that matter, which I've seen, and I'm not talking about sidewalk cafes, I'm talking about inside the restaurant, where they don't outright say, sir, ma'am, you cannot have this animal in here. Now, if you need that animal, if it's a proper ADA service animal, then yes, that animal can be there. It should be there. It's allowed to be there. But again, this dog I saw was 100% not a service animal, the way it was acting. And usually that's a telltale sign when people's animals are acting like animals in a grocery store. I mean, the dog just sees an Atlantic City buffet going on. And the grocery store I go to literally has a sign as soon as you walk in. And I don't have a picture of the exact sign, but I used the old interwebs, and I found 2 photographs of signs posted in that same grocery store. One is just very simple that says, no pets, service animals are welcome, emotional support animals are not service animals. Thank you for your cooperation. And then there's one a little bit longer where it's very similar. It says, please, no pets. Service animals are welcome. Please do not put animals in carts. And then it goes on to say, per the ADA, emotional support animals are not service animals. So they're outright telling you your dog is not allowed in here.
Well, by the way, I was just looking this up real quick. Atlantic City buffets some of them actually serve dog now. So do with that what you will.
No, that's terrible. Although I have thoughts about that anyway. That's another episode. Eating animals, what people choose to eat and not eat as far as animals.
Just tell me what I'm reading.
Oh, no, that's fine, but that's a whole nother episode.
It's on the internet. It might be true.
But yeah, so like I said, this woman's carrying this dog around, or not carrying, basically the dog's pulling the woman around.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the other way around.
And like it gets so annoying. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in this particular grocery store where, again, someone has a small dog and it's pulling one way while the person's looking at something on the shelf, and like you basically trip over the dog, or like you're walking into the dog, because I'm not looking for dogs on the ground. I'm looking on the shelf. And it's like, I by no means, it's weird, because part of me wants to be like, if it was an inanimate object, if it wasn't an animal, I would almost like consciously bump into this thing and be like, oh, what's this doing here? That, like make it a point.
Right.
But obviously I'm not going to do that, because I do not want to hurt the animal, because the animal has no choice in the matter. The animal's being forced to be there by its inconsiderate and clueless owners.
So I have a friend, and she has a dog, and the dog would run into the neighbor's yard, and then the neighbor would get PO'd, and then the neighbor would come over with the dog and make all sorts of accusations that, like, the dog bit her, she bit her dog, so the neighbor was trying to get the dog taken away.
Whoa. That's extreme, and that's just crazy neighbor, but...
It's the opening to The Wizard of Oz.
Oh. Okay. Good parallel, Royce. How are you... You're literally crying, laughing over this.
It's funny. You'll love it.
Cued your laugh track there.
I don't need it. No, I'm crying and laughing.
You do need it.
I didn't think I'd get that far. I thought you would have been like 2 words in. I thought you'd be like, stop, that's The Wizard of Oz.
I was curious to see where it was going.
I can give you
Carry on. Yeah, I know the movie now. I know the reference.
The real issue is it doesn't matter what you do in that situation. You're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Somebody puts a camera on you. It goes on social. Your side of the story doesn't get a chance.
Right, and I was like, I cannot say anything, because, again, either that person or someone else is going to take a picture, because everyone in the grocery store has their phones out. Not me, I have a list. I pay attention. But everyone else
have directions.
Everyone else has their phones out, so they can instantly take a picture, and then within minutes, I'll be on the neighborhood Reddit page of, look at this jerk telling,
right.
It's like a lose-lose situation. You can't do anything,
you have to just live with it.
And the real frustrating thing is the stores don't do a damn thing. And literally there's a security guard at the entrance of this grocery store. So they're not doing a damn thing either.
Well, they're not there to do it. They're not going to do anything anyway. They're not even there to be. You don't hire a security guard to do anything. You hire it as a deterrent. They're not there to react.
But like, true. Well, whatever. I guess it depends as to what like their quote unquote assignment is. But like circling back to like becoming this enemy of the neighborhood on the internet and not being able to ask, it's like I went, like, because the one sign says per ADA, the emotional support animals are not service animals. So with that being said, like I went to the ADA.gov website. So I pulled up basically what a service animal is and its requirements. So, a service animal is a dog that is individually trained to do work or perform tasks for a person with a disability. A service animal is a working animal. It's not to be considered a pet. Dogs whose sole function is to provide comfort or emotional support do not qualify as service animals under the ADA. And again, this is coming directly from the website. And it does say some states and local laws may define or be more broad, but I can tell you it's not the case here in New York. And again, I am all for service animals. The animal, the dog, well, at least in this case, this woman's dog, the golden retriever, the dog's not the problem. It's clearly the lady.
But there's a difference between emotional support and service.
Correct. Because most emotional support animals are also, in a way, pets. They're not working animals. Now, that being said, a service animal can also be there to treat people diagnosed with PTSD. So is that the case? I really don't know. But again, the way the animal is acting, it's clearly not a trained service animal. That to me is like the biggest distinction in how you can tell the difference. And, again, according to the ADA, basically anywhere people can go in the public, an animal can go as well. It did give an interesting example, like where it would be almost inappropriate. So if you're in a hospital and you're in a waiting room, or if you're in an exam room, it says a dog can be there. However, a place where it would be, a place where it would be appropriate to exclude them.
Operating room.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Common sense.
Yeah.
Operating room.
See, I don't have any papers.
It says burn units and things like that, which
the fact that you have to spell that out's nuts to me.
Right. And then on top of that, it's like, here's another thing that they require. The service animal must be under control of its handler. Again, if you see any animal
under the control of its handler.
Yeah. That's
a big difference.
Yeah. But if you see an animal in a store, regardless, store, restaurant, wherever you're at, and it's clearly not under control, it's clearly not a service animal.
But all right, I know I'm cracking jokes just because I think we've kind of reversed roles a little bit here, but I have to ask this in all seriousness. You have a service dog and you have a emotional support dog. So emotional support animal. It doesn't really matter if it's a dog. The ADA requirements speak to both of those, correct?
No. Or it addresses the difference, but it doesn't necessarily say an emotional support dog is a service animal.
So which one can actually be enforced?
Well, both of them are enforceable, whereas a proper service animal is permitted, whereas a service animal is not permitted. So, I mentioned PTSD, whereas...
Yeah, hold on. So I'm with you on the PTSD, but it comes down to a piece of paperwork to clarify the difference ultimately, obviously. So you're going to get from a doctor who's going to say, here's your service dog. You have a condition that requires a service dog. PTSD, you served in the military. You have to go shopping with this dog. Is that what that's sort of what should be that scenario that you experienced. If someone's going to have a dog, it should be a service dog that is required to be by their side at all times.
Yeah, it's a working animal. It's not a pet. And that's again, to me, that's how you tell the difference. When someone has an animal, in parentheses, quotes, a pet in a store,
right,
most of the time it is not properly behaving or under the control of the owner.
But the problem is once you start trying to enforce that and talk about telling the difference, then people have you over a barrel because you're starting to be presumptive and you're judging them and you're being accusatory, which means, again, nobody's really going to enforce it. You might have the right paperwork, but there are people out there masquerading with emotional support animals, which really require no documentation, right?
From what I found, literally, there's no documentation needed or required for either or. It's more or less the training, if that makes sense.
But that's the documentation, is the training, is our point.
True. But even still, again, some of the stuff I was looking at, it almost seems like you don't need here we go. So, state and local governments can't require certification or registration of service dogs. So with that, it's tough to say that.
Now that just got different. Now I'm confused by that, because are you telling me that so the service dog can't be registered, but the dog is a registered service dog? So it's like the dog, it's not about the ownership. In other words, the dog has been put through a training process. It's got the certification. Irrespective of owner, this is a service dog, and then there's no paperwork or no process to determine that you legitimately need that dog. So anybody who can get their hands on a proper service dog would really kind of debunk your entire premise. Or not debunk it, but invalidate the nuance of everything you're chasing here.
Honestly, I don't know, but from what I have looked up so far, yes and no. Whereas, again, you don't necessarily you basically never need to prove anything if you have an animal with you. However, you are allowed to ask a few questions, and I want to.
You meaning you? As like the person in the grocery store who is like, this is infringing on me?
It's tough to say because the way it's worded on the ADA website is that it's basically the staff. So it's talking about employees of a store. I don't know if that also equates to civilians. But basically, if I'm a store manager and someone with the dog comes in, I can ask them, is this a service animal required because of a disability? So they can say yes or no to that. Odds are they're going to say yes.
That just sounds like you're getting into some legal.
It is. Oh, it totally is. It's like HIPAA stuff. You can't.
That's what I'm saying.
And then the other question you're allowed to ask is, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? So in a way, that
fire twirling.
Right. So clearly that is a pet, not a service.
No, that's a show.
Right. And, so it really, I guess it is a little bit of a tricky manner. But again.
But that goes back to your original point. It's what you're damned either way.
Yes. But my thing is, to me, it is very clear to visibly see a service animal versus a non-service animal.
But you can't do anything about it.
Well, in a way, in my opinion, you can, because let's say an animal is acting in a way that a service animal should not be. At that point, you're allowed to ask them to leave.
I understand that, but you can't do anything about it. So are you going to go tell a store clerk who's not being paid enough to go deal with it, or are you going to get your stuff and leave?
Well, that's the thing. I guess enough people need to make a stink or boycott or do something to actually make a difference, which in a way is kind of lousy.
Are you announcing that you're leading this movement? Is that what this is today?
I don't know if I want to do that.
It's a lot of work.
I told you. I'll be on the neighborhood Reddit in no time. I'm not ready for that yet.
I don't know. I don't think you're really cut out to lead most movements. I say most.
Yes.
So listen. Hey now. Listen to me.
But yeah, I hate when people have their pets in places that they don't need to be there.
So the reason I got caught up in the nuance, I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this, so I want to choose my words carefully as I try to. But at one point, everybody was streaming, like everybody was streaming in the parks. And there was a woman who used to be a viewer who had a service dog. I always maintain it was just a dog with a service dog vest that they got their hands on somehow.
Which most people do. You can buy them off the internet.
So
with providing nothing.
And I think there's a pouch for credentials on the side of the vest, if I'm not mistaken. But again, who's asking to look? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And prior to this, okay. So one of the first times I came across said person, they were letting people pet the dog.
Nope, that's a pet.
So now we have a pet walking around Disney World. Then this person decided that they thought they would start streaming, because there's nothing that says success like jumping in at the tail end of a trend. So they're running around with their phone streaming in one hand and holding the dog on a leash by the other. And I'm like, do you not understand the insane liability of this situation? And there's more I really want to say that I shouldn't say on a podcast that's a little more specific to the individual. But all that's really relevant to what I'm telling you is that the signs were there that the dog was inauthentic from the beginning. But then on top of it, if you have a service dog your priorities should not be streaming the theme park. They should be focused on doing whatever you're doing that service dog is there to help you do. But there was nobody there to ensure it.
Well, I mean, a service dog is an extension of the person it's serving.
It's a liability. You have your phone. You have one hand on the phone and one hand on the dog. You have no ability to react to anything, let alone do what you're there to do.
But that's anywhere.
But it does not. It's not acceptable. It's a liability for the company. It's a liability for everybody. Because what happens if that dog bites somebody? Now that dog's, number one, not trained because we know it. Because we see the dog petting everybody. Or not petting everybody. You know what I mean? They're petting the dog. You bit the dog. What? So the dog is petting everybody. You know what I mean? So everybody's engaging with this dog, already setting the precedent for it being comfortable. Now you're preoccupied running around doing something else, and this quote-unquote service dog winds up biting somebody, biting a kid.
Right.
Who's liable?
The same situation in the grocery store, too. Like,
exactly. But
that parallel, yeah.
That's why I'm relating to it. But the only thing is the person in the grocery store is not streaming. What I'm saying,
they have their phone in their hands. I definitely saw that.
Okay, fair. Okay, so in many ways it's almost identical situation. I guess the point I'm making is the fact that you were choosing to have a primary activity outside of what's going on in front of your face in the moment almost debunks the fact that service dog is needed. You know? And then on top of that, to see that the service dog is being treated like a regular dog, it only validates it. But it's a huge liability, and then it becomes, who does it become incumbent upon in respect to a company like Disney? The low-wage college kid is not going to say, you can't be here and act that way. It's only going to get dealt with when, God forbid, something happens, and then people are forced to react.
Sure.
So it goes back to your whole thing. It's like, are you going to go snitch?
Well, I mean, it's not like people don't realize the dog's in the store. So I blame the corporation, whatever it may be, whether it's Disney, whether it's this chain of grocery stores, whether it's, like a store, a big box store in a mall. They need to have, clearly they have a policy. Like the store I went to at least had a sign, but they're not enforcing it. And I get okay, well, maybe we choose not to enforce it, but if people are going to take advantage of it, they need to do something about it. And literally, while I was I was looking up a picture of this sign so I could kind of talk about what it said and how straight and to the point it was. I literally found the whole subreddit talking specifically about keeping dogs out of this specific chain of grocery stores because people are bringing them in because they think they can. It's just... literally, I'm so tired of people bringing their dogs to There's no enforcement. Yeah.
Grocery shopping is rough.
Right? I remember once I was in a Home Depot. I'm dropping into a store, but whatever. I was in a Home Depot and a dog pooped right on the floor. Like, just pooped right in the middle of the floor. I'm like, what the is going on? And it was clearly not a service animal.
I was at the Dunkin' Donuts the other day. And they had the little child was standing on the counter in their sneakers where you buy your food.
That's not a dog or an animal.
Do you think those sneakers didn't track through dog poop?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know, people.
Excuse me. Those sneakers are only dirty because of that dog that pooped on the ground at the Home Depot.
Oh, they came from my way to go down to Florida?
No, I'm just saying it's like wherever you're tracking, you're walking, things are and people just track. I was raised to take my shoes off. So, I wear shoes on the first floor of my house because there's no carpets.
Right.
I don't wear shoes upstairs on the carpet because I just don't want to track all the crap that I'm walking around. So you're talking about the dog you see pooping on the ground, and I'm thinking of all the dogs you don't see pooping on the ground, that kids are running through the grass, the playground, whatever it is, and it just becomes a hygiene thing. And I think most people don't look at things that way. Most people don't even wash their hands after they go to the bathroom.
Oh, I say yuck when people leave. If I see someone leaving a bathroom and not washing their hands, I just go, ugh. And sometimes they catch them. So they catch me and they come back. And I'm like, yeah.
So, by the way, let me say this. Let me say this really quick, going back to our sponsors. Colleen Herman, it's /PWS/ Colleen Herman. It's pamperedchef.com /PWS /Colleen Herman. And, of course, you got Russell there at rklawpro.com. Just want to remind you, those two have been a proponent and a supporter of this podcast from the beginning, so I want to make sure to shout them out. But I want to get back to what we're talking about, but it just came to mind. Now, the other thing, Nick, is when we talk about you responding to somebody in this situation in the grocery store, you know, they could take a video of you and you're the bad guy and their side of the story doesn't matter because they get the leverage if it goes viral, right?
Which it definitely will.
But in the case of
on Reddit,
in the case of this woman, she's already live. This individual I was talking about.
Oh, right.
So now it's almost like the worst case scenario for somebody like you, because how brazen are they? They have all the ammunition, and you just have to live in this insane world. I mean, it's everywhere.
Well, again, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
But it's a combination of technology and a combination of a lack of manners.
I don't even know if I would say manners. I think it's just
self-awareness, respect.
I think it's respect and
courtesy.
Ignorance. People just don't give a hoot, let's just say, and they think that they're more important than others.
Well, the thing that gets me is when I see people's kids like crawling all over the floor, screaming and yelling, throwing a tantrum, or like I told you, like standing on the counter. Like I want to say things. And then I'm like, I don't either because I just want to be left alone, you know. I don't want to get involved. But seeing a dog poop on the floor in a Home Depot, I mean, who do you expect to respond to that?
I mean, I will say that they kind of cleaned it up. The person cleaned it up, but still it's like you don't take an animal. Like literally, as far as service animals go, there are two things where you can tell them to leave, and one of them is they are not. Where was it? They are not behaving or acting in a way that is not acceptable, or they are not house trained or housebroken. Literally, so like. Even if that was a proper service animal, at that point it's like get out of the store and don't come back. And it's tough because, like, again, I love dogs. I don't say I love dogs so much, but I care about animals so much that, like, I don't even have a dog here in the city because I don't feel it would be fair for that dog.
Oh, it wouldn't be.
To be living with me. I mean, and I have a good sized house. You've been here. We have a little outdoor space, but still, it's like
it's not enough.
Yeah, you know, like I don't feel it would be fair. Yes, you can have a dog in the city, so be it. And there's people that do, and they take great care of their animals, but there's also people that don't.
I don't feel like it would be fair in my situation, and people do it.
Yeah, I mean, you have a little bit more like green around you than I do.
But still, it's just a matter of consideration. Like, I don't think I have the wherewithal. I don't think I have the space.
Yeah.
But people do it. And then the worst is the people that are like, well, now I'm moving, so now I got to get rid of this dog. And I'm like, wow, you're a horrible human.
Yeah.
Let me just chain this dog to a fence and leave.
Well, those people are, they're special. There's a special place for them.
But imagine not having any emotional connection that you're just like, because if you cared enough, you'd set the dog up. Even if you have to leave the dog, you find somebody.
Right.
You know, just to go, oh, I'm moving, I'm abandoning my dog.
And with what I was reading about, like the ADA laws, there's also like other laws that were, it was called like the assistance animal, a definition of an assistance animal, or also there was something else. I don't have it. But basically, you can have an assistance animal, which is different than a service animal, which basically you cannot be discriminated against if you have that.
All right. So this reminds me of something, and this is what I told you earlier I was going to mention. Again, going back to the parks, going back to streaming. In the early days, somebody brought to my attention, even before the story I just told you was even a thing, that in the Italian version of the Disney map, in the ADA guide, it said that you could have not just service dogs, but service ponies. You could have a small horse, a service pony. And at the time, I was like in the early days of streaming, very popular channel, early days of streaming. So everybody was trying to take what I was doing and make it. Everybody was trying to get a piece of that. You know what I mean? You're at the beginning of a trend. And if I did something, people would copy it. If I sat down on the People Mover and did a marathon, the next thing you know, somebody else would do it because nobody could come up with their own ideas. So I was like, I had a Discord at the time. And I told them one night, I go, I'm going to start talking about going to the Magic Kingdom with a service animal. I'm going to get the paperwork. I'm going to make some calls.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of a dog, I'm going to get a pony. And I'm going to parade this pony down Main Street. Okay, my service pony. But I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to talk about doing it enough that 5 other streamers do it first, so I can just laugh at a bunch of people going out and bringing ponies to Disney World and never actually have to do any of the work involved. Because the logistics of bringing a pony to the park, I started to think it through because somebody actually because I started to talk about it on the live. And I only wanted to do it to watch other people copy me and try to beat me to it and be like, I was never really going to do it. But now you have a pony on your hands, or now you got rejected from the Magic Kingdom with a pony, whatever. But I was like, and then somebody reached out to me and she was like, I live in Florida. I have ponies. If you want to use one of my ponies. And I'm like, I don't actually want to do it.
Now, you said it was from the Italian part of the map. Was it Dominic the Donkey they were referring to?
No. I don't even get the reference.
Dominic the Donkey.
I don't get it.
Wait till Christmas time. It's a wonderful Christmas song about Dominic the Christmas Donkey. It's an Italian thing. Sorry, you wouldn't get it.
You look extra Italian today because your headphones are looking like a Goomba chain.
Yeah, well.
All right, listen.
But it's funny you say that, though, because I was going to parallel. In the ADA stuff, you are allowed to have a service animal, or you are allowed to have, how do they word it? It's hysterical, I think. But you are allowed to have...
a little jackass.
Yeah, miniature horses, they define it.
That's what I'm saying. So I was going to bring a tiny horse to Disney World.
And its requirements, or... it even that defines miniature horses generally ranging in height from 24 to 34 inches.
Right.
And weigh 70 to 100.
I wasn't going to ride the pony down Main Street. I was just going to have it on a leash. And then I was going to try to take it on Haunted Mansion with me. So at the end of Haunted Mansion, when I'm sitting in the thing and the extra ghost comes in, it's me, the pony, and a ghost.
Wow. That would be something special.
But I wasn't going to do any of it. I was just going to watch everybody else do it.
So no one else did it, though, sadly?
No, because I didn't talk about it enough. I stopped.
Womp womp.
I think there was a point where I started to think that maybe I should do it.
Right. Well, oh well.
I saw there's somebody behind you.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
I saw people.
I'll get my bat and beat them.
Oh my gosh, it's a family-friendly show, is it now? Anyway, what else? We've covered a lot.
I just want to emphasize our little rant, that dogs are not the problem here. I just want to make sure everyone gets that. Mm-hmm. Dogs are not the problem.
It's the human.
Yeah, that's true. You were telling me you wanted to tell me a little bit about that show on Apple TV, The Studio. You were telling me how you liked that one.
Oh, I literally just want to make sure that I tell everybody to go check out, because the first episode is free on Apple TV Plus or whatever it's called, The Studio with Seth Rogen. I think it is the best work he has ever done to date that I've seen. And it's just phenomenal. And it's a lot of inside baseball if you are a sort of a Hollywood entertainment kind of buff, then you might appreciate that. If you just like good performances, Catherine O'Hara is just top tier, Bryan Cranston, and then also just the way that they shoot the thing, Nick. Every shot, every scene is a single shot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a one shot, like a one take, right?
So everything's a series of oneers. So even if they're small ones and stitched together, everything is done as a one. And if you really start to look at it that way, and you listen to him talk about how they do it, there's a tense nature to the show, and it's highly improvised. Catherine Hahn is in it. She's hilarious. And it's just something about that intensity really resonates. Highly recommend it. First episode's free. This is not a paid advertisement.
You sound like you're pushing something out. The first one's for free. The next ones you got to pay for.
I don't watch a lot of things. You know, I usually consume news in the background. I'm not, and I've watched. I actually wound up doing the Apple TV trial and all that just to keep watching.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, well, speaking of actors, you mentioned a few names there. We were talking about this right before we started to record, and I thought it was kind of humorous. We're talking about one of the actors from one of your favorite TV shows, Cheryl Hines. I never realized she was married to RFK Jr. Like,
well, you sleep in.
Yeah, I do. I do sleep in.
You miss a lot.
Yeah, I do. But apparently she and her husband were at, I think, an MMA fight or UFC something.
It was last night.
Yeah, and like all of the Republican people were there, whatever.
I mean, that doesn't even, whatever.
But anyway, I just thought there's a great video, though, of Trump is like shaking everyone's hands, and he hits RFK, shakes his hand, and completely gives his wife Cheryl the cold shoulder. I was like, wow, like didn't even like try to hide it, and her face was just like, what the, like that just happened. It was, but that's also, we've seen that before as well, I think. But
how many videos do you think are out there of that with the curb music at the end?
Oh yeah. Well, after I saw it, I like Googled it just to get more info on Cheryl and her marriage with RFK and all that stuff, and like everything else was just related to Curbed, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. You were saying that like she is just not for him, I guess you could say, right?
RFK?
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we got a few years to find that one out.
So I saw that when I woke up this morning, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole because I had the same thought as you, as what does she really think, you know? And she's a Democrat, and she's always been outspoken against Trump. I don't think she was thrilled with him doing what he did in terms of leaving his campaign and kind of jumping on board with Trump's. But an article that I read, and again, you can't believe the things you read, right?
Of course, right.
But an article that I read said that she basically was pushing for the $4 million Georgetown penthouse so she could live her Jackie O life. And my whole thing is this. I mean, she's an actress, so I like Cheryl Hines. I like Curb. But how disappointed can anybody really be by her affiliation to RFK or Trump or any of them? If you are disappointed, because I don't even know if there's a reason to be. Most actors are so narcissistic, they'll do anything for attention and have such crazy desires for the celebrity lifestyle. Not all. But if you look at Cheryl Hines and you go and you find some of these videos, and I only say this, Nick, because I saw one this morning, she's on there, she's in some video trying to hawk her makeup or something, you know, because every actress has a skincare line or whatever, you know.
Of course.
60% off, and he's in the background trying to shower, and she's like, Bobby, I'm trying to make a video, you got to wait. Obviously, it's staged because you don't accidentally pop up in the shower unless your shower has a trap door. So, like, it's being played off like, Bobby, you got to try to finish it. But, like, so she's obviously loving it to a certain extent. She's trying to have her cake and eat it, too.
Well, it's free publicity for her.
You know, 60% off. I'm like, wow, you must have some really healthy margins there, huh? So you look at it and you go, all right, you might not like this, you might not like that. But at the end of the day, like most people, and I'm not faulting, just saying, at the end of the day, like most people, as long as you get that lifestyle, as long as you're getting yours, you're fine. I mean, he's got a reputation. I'm sure she's not unaware of it, and I'm sure as long as she's getting what she wants. But again, I don't think there's anything to be disappointed with her, because I think in many ways, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I think she's your typical Hollywood actress. So, I mean, how much depth do you really think she has?
I do not know.
I'm going to go with she's more on the shallow end of the pool.
Quite possible. Although I just looked up, they've been married since 2014. So
that only reinforces my point, because there's plenty to find wrong during that much time.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe she's just a very – and whatever. Listen, I used to think Cheryl Hines was stunning.
She's an attractive woman, yeah.
Yeah, but
is.
sometimes, guess what? Sometimes beauty comes from inside and has this ability to override the outside. And I think when I see her next to him, I'm like, what do you see in him?
Yeah.
Like she went from I think Paul Young to him.
Well, I know what she sees. She sees
Kennedy
money.
Yeah, but he's not part of that. She figures she figures even a percentage.
I'm sure he has something somewhere.
She's working the conversion rate and the wills.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever. So I can't be. I mean, I the inclination to be disappointed is there, but then also not. And then also, what's to really be disappointed about? Because I'm tired of all the vilification. I like who I like. I like who I don't like. I'm tired of everybody hating everybody. It's exhausting.
It is. It is. Well, I just thought it was quite humorous to see that, as blatant as it was.
Oh, it's great. And she had such a sourpuss. Like she looked so like.
It kind of looked more to me like a WTF. Like what did it, like?
It was a pouty face.
I guess.
Whatever. Who cares?
It was still.
So I guess if this is what we're talking about, we must be done. Goodbye.
Well, well, no. I think while we're on that sort of subject, you wanted to talk about our friend Bill Maher a little bit.
We know him?
Well, in theory.
Oh, okay.
There's 6 degrees somewhere.
You want to know what's really funny? Actually, I tried months ago to get him on the podcast, and I did speak with his publicist. So you never know. I'm not going to say what they said and what I said to them, because not everything should be said out loud, right? Which is a segue to the Bill Maher thing. So I don't have a problem that Maher. Obviously, why would you have a problem that Bill Maher went to go see the president? It's kind of a fascinating thing.
Well, first, like just in case people don't know, explain to you what happened.
Well, Bill Maher is a comedian. Nick has a television show on HBO called Real Time.
Yeah. I know this, but you need to tell the people this so they understand, just in case.
So Bill Maher got invited by Kid Rock to go to the White House to see Donald. This is not a Simpsons episode, by the way. Kid Rock got Bill Maher invited by Donald Trump to go to the White House, and Dana White joined because Kid Rock didn't want to be stuck in that room if it got combustible. So they all got together for like 2.5 hours and did dinner and a little White House tour. And some people were kind of irate that Bill Maher went. I don't see what the big deal is. He's the president. Who really cares? I mean, you might not like the president.
Bill Maher's not the president. Let's just.
No, I'm saying Donald Trump is. You weren't even paying attention. Donald Trump is the president, so I think there's got to be some respect for the office. But I also am kind of fascinated by the fact that the guy's been in our culture so long that he's not just the president, he's Donald Trump, and there's this thing that is attached to being Donald Trump that existed in our culture. Go listen to rap music in the 90s. I mean, he was woven into our culture in a way before he ever got into politics. It's a really fascinating thing to stop and to look at and to consider, right? So anyway, so they had their meeting, and then Bill Maher broke it down on the air. Now, I watched the segment I sent. Did you watch the segment? I sent the link to you.
I did watch it last night.
What are your thoughts? Because I have thoughts, but I'd rather hear your thoughts first.
What are my thoughts? It was interesting to hear him talk about how he is very different, basically in front versus behind the camera. And in a way that frustrated me even more because it's even more clear everything we see is a put on, basically. So basically he is acting for us, which I'm not saying politicians and people, presidents don't do that. However, again, the frustrating thing is if he's acting, Trump that is, if Trump is in a way acting for us and putting on this role, he is not truly being genuine. Therefore, he doesn't really care about the U.S. people. He's going to do what's best for him, much like an actor will do. Kind of we were just talking about Cheryl Hines. Like an actor is going to do what's going to get them more roles, more money, et cetera, et cetera. And that is literally, in my opinion, what Trump is doing. He is not doing things for the American people. He is doing things for himself, his other wealthy friends, and the people that can take advantage of it. And that was kind of my take. Again, it was interesting to hear what Bill Maher had to say about how he would react to different things and comments, which did seem and sound very different than he normally does or would act. You know, like when someone's a reporter asks him a question, he goes, "That's a very nasty question. You're a nasty person." I think
it's interesting how much short-term memory we have as a people.
Well, again, we've talked about this. Most people, I don't want to say the education system and how we choose to, like you said, I guess short-term memory and purge important things from our heads is just it's mind-boggling, if you ask me.
Yeah, because the things that you're saying you were kind of surprised to hear or whatever, you know, at first, in the first third of a second, I might have been too. But I think what frustrated me with the Bill Maher thing, and it took the second time to watch to realize it, is that Bill Maher, too, is doing a show. Obviously, because you're tuning in to watch it, you know it's a show, right? So Bill Maher is only going to tell you what he wants to tell you. He's not going to tell you everything. And we have seen Trump laugh. We do know Trump has a sense of humor. I didn't have the expectation that if Bill Maher said something that Trump didn't like, that he'd turn around and yell at him the way he does at reporters, because that's not the moment. And I don't think it is – the actor performance thing is interesting because I really think it comes down to persona. And I think if people had a better understanding of persona – I think Trump might be more self-aware about his shift in persona than some realize. But I think, and I started to think about all these things post watching the clip and was waiting to have this conversation with you. I started to think about the acting thing. And I don't think Bill Maher made any revelations there. I think we know all these things that Trump puts on somewhat of a performance because he came from the world of reality TV. And I think what happened was when Trump came in on that first time around, and it was Kasich and Rubio and Cruz, Trump came in and went full entertainer. And Trump came in and took politics to the next level in terms of entertainment value. For better or worse, right? He took it to the next step. I shouldn't say next level. He took it to the next step. So what was that? Well, we can pretend like there's no holds barred, but I'm actually going to go no holds barred, and I'm going to embrace the concept of political theater in a way that nobody else does, because decorum doesn't exist if I'm on a stage. And then what happens? You get off the stage and you're breaking bread, and you have decorum because, oh no, that's just the campaign. That's just theater. And I think Trump looks at politics like entertainment, and that's why he's been so successful. So I don't think there were any Bill Maher revelations there. The thing that frustrated me the most is when he made the comment that he said to Trump, "You're scaring people," and then Bill goes, and then I know you want to know what he said, and Bill goes, "Well, I forgot," and then he rolls his eyes and like smacks his lips, and as if to say, "I remember exactly what he said, but I'm not going to say it."
Because we all can think it.
No, because he basically is admitting what I just said, which is, hey, I'm just embracing political theater, and I don't care if my own people are afraid of me, because anyone who knows me knows the real me. I've been around forever. But if my people fear me, then China and Russia will fear me. And I feel like it was some version of that like, hey, me pretending to be this unhinged strongman pays dividends on the world stage with leaders. That's my theater.
Well, it 100% does.
But I'm saying, so Bill Maher rolling his eyes and pretending that he forgot just makes makes him such a, I don't want to say fraud. I like Bill Maher, but it just makes him no different than Trump. And but Trump's an entertainer who is now a politician. So Bill Maher knows exactly what Trump said. Bill Maher earlier set that up by saying he forgot something else. He didn't forget a friggin' word Trump said in that 2.5 hours. Bill Maher's a sharp guy. Bill Maher writes comedy and remembers hours of stand-up. and then is able to think on his feet and mold it. He knows every word Trump said to him. He opted only to share what worked. And I think when Trump said to him, hey, listen, man, it's all show business, Bill Maher was like, oh, shit, he's more savvy than I realized and that most people realize, but I'm not going to totally blow his cover because that could be a national security issue.
I don't think that would end up being national security.
Why? It doesn't help to go out there and go, Trump told me that basically he tries to play the strong man so he can leverage it against foreign adversaries. Yeah, why would you admit that if that's what Trump said?
But also, I think the foreign adversaries, especially in the political spectrum, already know that. Really, like the people that are in the game know the game.
What you think you know and what you can say verbatim came out of the mouth of the person are two different things. And it's also very possible that Trump said, listen, you want an answer, Bill? Pretend you forgot what I'm about to say. Trump very well may have started it off with that. And Bill's like, okay, Mr. President, you know what I mean? So I just saying the fact that there's no way Bill Maher forgot what Trump said.
Oh, no, I agree there.
So, okay, that's all I'm getting at, which means his motives are just as sus. And that's fine. It's just, it's all showbiz, man. That's all I'm getting at. And I've said this for as long as I've been alive. Politics and entertainment are very, very closely united. You know, Obama was our first celebrity president. Trump was our first, Trump is really our first celebrity that came president. Reagan, you could say, but Reagan was more of an actor. Trump was a celebrity. You know, Trump has had far more name recognition than Ronald Reagan did. Trump was known on the world stage. They weren't talking about Ronald Reagan in rap songs. Okay.
But also look at the time when Reagan was president, though. We didn't necessarily have the internet or to this.
That's not my point. That's not my point. Is that he wasn't a successful actor.
But that's also why Reagan wasn't as well known. Had we have the internet and the way information spreads now,
I disagree. I
think he would have been well known. He'd be known better.
That makes no sense because what I'm saying is pre-president. And you're acting like suddenly having all of that would have made his career as an actor better? No. What I'm simply saying, there were other more well-known actors at the time when Reagan was an actor. Reagan was a marginally successful working actor. He got known on the world stage by becoming president. He wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger. Trump had 30-plus years of name recognition.
Okay, I see.
You see what I'm saying? You're talking about post-president. You're talking about with the internet, Reagan's name could have been that. But I'm saying leading up to.
Well, I'm saying leading up to as well, but I see what you're saying.
How? You think Reagan had any brand leading up to prior to being president?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Other than Bonzo? Bedtime for Bonzo?
I understand what you're saying, but.
For the kids, that's the chimpanzee movies.
I get what you're saying about how Trump had many more outlets prior to becoming president than Reagan.
And to go back to you knowing better, you put me on to Howard Stern, third grade. Think back to every time Howard sat in that every time Trump sat on that couch, how likable, how charismatic, how funny, how self-deprecating. So to sit here and think that he's just the big bad wolf is wild. He's a charming, likable guy that always wanted to be loved by Hollywood and never was. And now he's got power, and he'd rather have people fear him because that forces them to love him. And that's his psychiatry. You know, is that this is his version of celebrity.
Well, yeah, at the highest possible level imaginable, yeah.
But that's why he loves having everybody call him about the tariffs, because it makes him the center of the show.
But I don't even think that's happening. I think that, again, that's all.
Oh, I agree. But
that's all show.
It doesn't matter. It's happening because he said it's happening. And in Trump, in the logic of Trump, that's all that matters. It's perception is reality. And that goes, by the way, I'm not going to say just Trump. That's the media world we live in, right? It's not fair to just associate that with Trump. I'm not a Trump hater. I do not like the way Donald Trump has chosen to be a politician. He has gone after the lowest and the worst common denominator every time in an effort to get votes. And it has worked, and it has divided people, and it has shown how ugly people can be, some of whom I'm related to. But I think at the end of the day, there's a damaged human being in there that just wants to be liked by everybody.
And he has the ability to have that, but he chooses not to.
Do you remember the SNL sketch where he wears the yellow suit dancing around with the Trump chicken?
Vaguely.
So, I mean, like, he's capable of being just a clown and not a president who's a clown. You know what I mean? Like, he's capable of laughing at himself. Like, he used to do the WWF stuff, WWE stuff. Like, he's capable, and I don't mean clown even in a derogatory way. The problem is one thing to be a court jester. It's another thing to be a court jester when you're also in charge. I almost said king, but that's what he wants. He thinks he's king, right? The problem is you're talking about somebody with a severe narcissistic personality disorder, and he has such a desire to be loved. And I shouldn't even be saying this stuff, but it's the end of the podcast, so I don't really give a flying fish. Okay? But the real correlation between Trump and Hitler is that they're both failed artists. Yes, Trump had success with The Apprentice, but much like Hitler trying to be a musician and a painter, and there was some talent there. Hitler could draw. I mean, you go look at some of his work. He didn't not have talent. Okay? But it was the correlation between there is leaders who want to be loved, and that raw insecurity is what makes them so angry and so mean. And Trump's desire to be loved is what makes him so mean. The reason he lashes out at the press is because you want to talk to anybody other president in the history of the country but me this way. Shame on you. He's a child. Now, let me just get this out of the way since I'm on a tear. You talk about a Steve Bannon. I think a Steve Bannon's far more dangerous than a Donald Trump. And Bill Maher had Steve Bannon on the other night, and Newsom had Bannon on his podcast, which is produced by iHeartRadio. So if you really want to talk about what the problem is at the highest level, we're being played. Right? And if Donald Trump is really the boogeyman, then Steve Bannon is the devil. And Steve Bannon, it's his job. I mean, he went out on Bill Maher, and Bill Maher made a joke because they were like applauding Bill Maher, and he's like made a joke, and then Steve Bannon was like, well, if they were giving me a standing ovation, then I haven't done my job. In other words, being divisive, being cruel, enacting legislation that hurts people. It's a job for a guy like that. It's all part of the job. So I think when Bill Maher goes in to meet with Donald Trump, it's just like, hey, man, you got a job to do and I got a job to do. And it's all business. It's no hard feelings. So on the world stage, I can say, this, that, and the other thing about you. But behind closed doors, it's all good, man. It's just showbiz.
Well, it's not all good.
But it is. That's Republicans and Democrats. That's sports teams. That's politicians. That's studio heads. There's no, they're your peers. Your peers at that level. You're not. The Republicans and the Democrats in Congress are not in competition with each other. They are peers. And if you start to look at things through that lens, then you have to ask yourself, then why, if they are peers, are we divided? Not you and I, obviously, Nick, because you and I tend to be more in line, not perfectly. But you have to ask yourself, if they are peers, why are we divided?
As far as politicians go, I don't even call – well, I could see both sides of it. I don't know if I'd call them peers because –
what's the definition of the word peer? No, seriously, look it up. I'll wait. Because I think by definition they're peers. I don't think it's a wise man once said there's opinions and there's facts, right?
I get it.
I don't know. Did you talk about that on the podcast last time?
I had some other great sayings that were.
It wasn't but I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to say. I just know a story about somebody saying, that's not a fact, that's an opinion, and there's a difference. And then somebody said facts are opinions or something like that.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that on the phone the other day.
Okay, it wasn't – okay.
I don't know.
You know how it goes. Lots of people out there who think facts and opinions are the same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody from the grocery store.
Yes.
He's looking up. I'm just vamping. So you're looking up peers. He's still reading. And it looks like he's got a chain around his neck and he's wearing a black shirt. So he really does look Italian.
So here, I look Italian.
Angelo, you're on the air.
Hey, paisanos. So here we go. In general, peer refers to a person of the same age, status, or ability as another. It can also be used in the context of a group of people who share a common interest or profession. In a social setting, a peer is someone you consider to be a friend or someone with whom you relate on a level of equality.
Couple boxes checked off there. Congress or peers. Social status.
As far as profession, they are peers.
Well, that's all I meant. But here's the thing, Nick. You say as far as profession, you're trying to parse it out. They all go to K Street and do cocaine and drink together at the bars. They're peers. They're friends. Joe Biden, who was the president, was very close friends with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. They are friends.
Even during the presidency?
But what's the difference? He was still on the other side of the aisle. Yes, they were. I don't think they were as close. But my point is that you have 30 years of a relationship because you're peers. It didn't go away because you're president. It may have gotten a little more complicated when it comes to doing your job. But you spend 30 some years together on the same campus with these people. They're your peers. So my whole point is even though they have different sides of the aisle, quote unquote, different teams, which I think is part of the problem, because it shouldn't be blood sport, it shouldn't be teams, because the team is the country. But we're all on the same side. But because in a desire to get elected, people use the worst possible tactics, we have a very divided people in this country. So all I'm saying is this whole false premise of like, well, why should Bill Maher go see Donald Trump, and then this whole idea of like, oh, but you know what, we shouldn't be separated. We should have common ground, blah, 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 blah. These are not new ideas. All the people who are in office who are supposed to be leading the charge get along. There might be a few that don't, like any other workplace environment. But the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress are working in concert. When you see Steve Bannon on Bill Maher's show, okay, you have to ask yourself, how much worse could Steve Bannon really be? I mean, Bill Maher just went on there and told you Trump's going to try to run for a third term. I mean, we're normalizing this stuff together. So they're complicit in it. Now, here's the funny thing. Steve Bannon comes from Hollywood. So Steve Bannon's out there running this playbook, and I think he's more dangerous than Trump, and he's on the conservative, the ultra-right, and all this. He was a Hollywood guy. He was a Seinfeld producer. So how does that fit into your whole Hollywood liberal elite logic? Okay? It doesn't work. Right? Because what did I just say? At the top, they're all peers. Oh yeah, but not all Hollywood. Steve Bannon stands up for children's rights, and we got to fight the sex traffickers and the child traffickers. No, Steve Bannon was in bed with Brock Pierce. Brock Pierce was part of Den. Den was tied to Bryan Singer. Den and Brock Pierce and Bryan Singer were all involved in child sex trafficking. They were all involved in pedophilia. All of them. Google it. It's all out there. So I say all this is that when you get, again, I say this so many times, I'm never going to stop saying these things. When you get to the top, all of your ideologies no longer matter. So they keep us divided because they think that they know that it works. It's in their best interest, and they think we're idiots. But you have your ideas, and you think you're right, and the other guy's got his ideas, and he thinks he's right, and you're fighting for your ideas, and you're fighting for your ideas, and the people at the top are just pulling the strings because at the end of the day, they're all doing the same stuff. So Steve Bannon, your ultra-right-wing crazy guy, was a Hollywood producer, tied to crazy guys in the crypto world that are on the ultra-right who are tied to Hollywood producers. I mean, I could rattle off names. I mean, go look up Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin, who was the Treasury Secretary in Trump's first term, was tied to the Rat Pack, Brett Ratner production company, which was tied to Warner Brothers. He was a major investor. I mean, these guys are all tied together. So you're going to sit there and tell me he's part of the Trump administration, but he's also a Hollywood liberal? The reason you can have it both ways, conventionally you would say, well, you can't have it both ways. Turns out you actually can have it both ways. Because the world is not black and white. The world is gray. It is us who they keep in the black and the white. But everything at the top, when it gets consolidated down to those last bits of power and those last few companies, it's all gray. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's true.
Well, I think kind of what you're saying in a way.
You weren't even listening.
No, I was listening. But I think... not to get back into the whole crazy diatribe, but the top has one concern, and that's to stay at the top and to stay wealthy.
And widen that gap.
Yep. Which literally we just saw this past week. In a crazy, incredible way.
What a great way to wrap that up. Sorry, continue, but I'm so glad you brought that to that, because that is the epitome of it all.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, people think that, some of these tariffs are a power play, and Trump wants to be the big man and get the attention. But ultimately, the bottom line of that is the only people that benefited are the people at the top. And I'm not one of those people. I lost. I would say, the tens and tens of thousands of dollars, all of my retirement accounts and funds lost, it went to them. And literally they took billions of dollars from the bottom, and it all got moved to that tiny little bit at the top.
Well, look at that market crash. I mean, that market crash was phenomenal if you have the money.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That was all a ploy.
But let me tell you something. It's amazing to be at a point in life where you understand these things, because it's one thing to be in the market and to not understand the market, and that's a lot of people. Because when that started to happen, a lot of people are emotional, right? So then they start to sell things off at a loss because they're cutting their losses. And you're not supposed to do emotional selling. I admit I do emotional buying, but I very, very infrequently do emotional selling.
And you probably learned from your mistakes in doing so.
With the emotional selling or the buying?
Yeah, selling.
Yeah.
Especially. Yeah, learned the hard way.
So what's interesting to me about that is, when you talk about debt and they use the term wealth management, right? But if you don't have wealth, you're still managing something, right? So the idea that I have money in the stock market, and yes, it really sucks to open my portfolio right now, but I'm not going to panic. That's a really I'm so happy to be in that spot, not fiscally to be in that spot. Mentally to be in that spot where it really, really sucked to watch my portfolio go down. But I just knew we were one tweet away from it going right back up. So that was an opportunity for anybody with deep pockets to get richer.
And don't give them credit when you say go back up. Let's be very clear about that.
Who's giving credit?
No. I know. I don't want people to get confused, because some of our leaders are claiming, look what I did. I saved the stock market, biggest gains in one day.
Well, no, he did save the stock market, and those were the biggest gains in the one day, but he also crashed it.
No, he didn't. He did that on purpose to make billions of dollars.
Well, I'm being facetious. Save is not the right word. Yeah, but you recovered it by undoing your damage, but you didn't fully
recover. We're not recovered. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, you stopped the free fall, and now we're slowly leveling back, but we have a long way to go.
And it sounds like it's happening again, this free fall, But
that's my point about being a tweet away. So how horrible for the people that panicked and sold off. Why would you do that?
I think, again, people are not, especially if you're not educated or you didn't do your research about trading, then yes, you would obviously you have a higher chance of selling off when you shouldn't. If you've been around the block a little bit, and I mean just a little bit,
yeah.
and you've done your homework and done your learning and educating yourself, you knew better not to do anything.
You just had, I had to weather it, right? Like I had to weather several margin calls.
My only regret is not selling when the tariffs and all that stuff was announced, or knowing when that announcement was. My only regret was not setting a stop loss when it went down. Everything gets sold, and then when he says, "Don't worry, we're coming back," to buy it back at that point. That's my only regret.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have done that pre-election, but I didn't think it was going to go this way. Like pre-election, I could have taken some gains, but whatever. They're still there. You just got to wait for them to come back. That's what people seem to forget about the stock market. The average person is that you don't actually lose money in the stock market until you close your position.
If it's losing, yeah, exactly.
If your position goes down in the market, you have a couple options, and one of them is to buy more. Because on that dip, what you have the opportunity to do is to move your cost per share down. So you can average down your cost per share. So instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, my stocks are down, I'm losing money, you haven't lost any money because you haven't cashed out. You're just in a very bad down position potentially.
Yeah.
You can look at it like, oh my gosh, the stocks are on sale. Now I can get more, bring down my cost per share, which means I'll see green quicker when we get back there, and at more shares, I'll increase my multiple. So I was getting hit, as so many probably were, because of the drastic drop with margin call after margin call after margin call. So I got on the phone with Schwab, and I was like, can I speak to Chuck?
And he's in the White House bragging to a bunch of people.
So, but I was just like, this is crazy because I can't, like, number one, I'm not pouring money down the drain. Like, just as a smart investor, or I don't think I'm the smartest investor by any stretch, but I'm not going to pour money down the drain to meet these margin calls because all I would be committing to doing is pouring money down the drain on a daily basis. That's stupid. I'm not giving my money to other people because all that is a transfer of wealth at that point. Would you agree?
Yep.
Okay. So what do? Now, Schwab can't give you advice, but I can ask questions and they can talk to me in such a way. And I just wanted to I just want a little feedback in a very uncertain time. I was a little nervous. By the way, when I call Schwab, Nick, it's like 1 a.m, 8 a.m. Like I call at the crazy hours. It's fun because those guys will talk to you. You'll get more info because 2 o'clock in the morning, the guy wants to stay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like at that point, you're a service for him. But it was like 8 o'clock.
Or he's mad you're waking him up.
No, I was like, hey, now, please. It's his job.
The phone's ringing again.
It's like he's on call.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello?
No, but it was like 8 in the morning. The guy's like, the phones are light up. It's going to be one of those days. But he was very cool. So what I did was, instead of going, oh, my gosh, pour money down the drain to recover, which won't matter because in 30 seconds I'll hit another margin call, I said, let me look at my portfolio and let me take losses amortized across the portfolio to meet the margin call. So I didn't wipe out any positions. So then when the market started to recover and my heavy hitters started to bring up my margin, I started buying back. And I started buying back the better stocks in my portfolio, like NVIDIA. So instead of doing a transfer of wealth from my bank account to my Schwab to some rich guy's bank account, I know there's losses in there somewhere, but I'd rather have them be internal and recoverable. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So basically, like, okay, I might have sold off a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and I'll buy a few NVIDIAs back on the climb.
And I think we forgot to mention, Royce, this is for entertainment purposes only. We are not giving out financial advice.
Oh, well, of course not. And not only, I'm not giving advice, I'm telling you a story.
Either way, we don't want to misconstrue anybody.
But what I'm getting at is I don't like this panic thing that people are forced to buy into, and I wish we taught it earlier in life. It goes back to your going around the block phrase. I only got to that level of comfort and being able to make that maneuver through experience.
Right.
And they weren't all good experiences. So I wish that we taught that. I wish that, like, you know, with all these idiot streamers out there, I wish people, like, provided more information. Maybe when the return to streaming comes, you know, maybe it's just providing more information to people, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're talking about education. I remember in high school, I think my one social studies class, we did, paper trading. We get the newspaper, pick some stocks, and there was really no information given as to like what to look for this. It was just a matter of like, pick whatever you like. So people are like, I'll pick Nike, I'll pick this, and then again, it didn't mean anything because we weren't even educated about what the hell was actually going on.
Turns out that you kind of buy stocks that way anyway.
You do, which is definitely accurate. You want to buy or buying things that you believe in is helpful because you feel good about it.
If you're spending your own money on it, then you may as well invest in it.
Right, exactly. But again, they didn't. You know, in high school there wasn't a lot of understanding why we're doing this or what really makes the market swing up, down, you know, or sideways for that matter. So,
you know, but it's interesting to think about that way because. See, back then, I don't even think I was tuned into the concept. I mean, I knew what the stock market was, but I don't even think that we were taught. I don't think we taught economics at that level. Like, I don't think we were taught the market.
And I think part of that, though, as well, is nowadays anyone with a phone can be a trader. And back then, I don't even know how you would have bought stocks back then.
You have to pick up the phone and call a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Wait to get on the line. Like, so, you know, maybe with, I'm assuming that is part of it as well, if that makes sense. Whereas, but people are more in tune to doing it. Like I remember when I was working in the firehouse, guys would be sitting around the kitchen table with their phones out trading stocks all day. But you couldn't do that in a firehouse if there was no phones and apps to make it that easy. Now it's just basically gambling.
But we weren't getting a financial education, and I think this is a good way to wrap this up. When this whole tariff thing came out, I'm like, why is everybody so confused over tariffs? We did not get, and I did not go to an economics class, but I distinctly remember learning that tariffs were taxes in like the third grade.
I mean, it even sounds like some sort of fee you're getting hit with. The name tariff, right?
But like, we're not going for the onomatopoeia. Okay, I'm just saying, like, I remember, like, it wasn't even in an economics class. Right? It could have been in a friggin' English class with a. I just remember being taught tariffs were taxes very early on, and then you're watching this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, we really have a short-term memory. We don't know anything anymore. We used to know these things, so now I got to watch people explain tariffs on the news, and I'm like, McGraw-Hill taught me tariffs in the third grade, and I didn't take economics. You know, I wish back then, the equivalent, Nick, I mean, yes, it would have been nice to learn about the stock market at a certain point. Back then, growing up, it would have been nice to know about credit. It would have been nice, and credit was still fairly young. You know, the credit scores didn't exist forever. Credit scores are a fairly modern concept. But growing up, we weren't introduced to that. We weren't taught how to balance checkbooks. Nobody balances checkbooks anymore. I think I'm paying for QuickBooks, and I'm not even using it.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my three younger nephews, I'm just like, figure out how to use this stuff and invest smart now, because no one told me that when I was in school. And had I known, I would have been putting all of my money into those type of things and been a multimillionaire 20 years ago, easily. Guaranteed.
No, there's no way to prove that. But yeah.
No, I guarantee.
I'm going to get that notarized.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where you look. I like to find the trends. I like to stay in front of things. I'm always mystified by the people that show up late to trends, but that's the way the world works. There's different types of people, right? And I think that, just to bring this full circle to your grocery list, I think that we're living in a world right now that has probably got more opportunity than any time in my lifetime. Quite possibly any time in modern history. So much information, so much technology, but people are more divided. angrier, antisocial. The people aren't dating, they're not procreating. So what's interesting to me is we have all of this opportunity, and then you have all of this sort of stagnancy. And I actually think what that does, going back to like your nephews or the younger generation, is that leaves a real huge gap. And there's going to be some people that are going to come out of this AI boom very, very rich, because a lot of people are going to miss out on the front end. And I don't know if we'll ever have a full awakening where people will come back to the middle. I don't know if we'll have a full awakening where people want to like get married and procreate. I feel like just all these ideas are dying, And so I don't know if we will ever get back to what it felt like when we were growing up, where you could agree to disagree and your politics wasn't on your sleeve, all of these things. But I'm going to tell you right now, because people are so divided, because people are so locked up in their little bubbles, it's going to be a lot easier for those few to get super rich, because there's less people willing, and the few that actually can get through the nonsense and not get distracted. I mean, Nick, it's crazy. I'll go to a TMZ article or a Deadline.com article. I don't care where it is. And it doesn't matter. I don't have to go but 2 to 3 comments in on the comment thread before somebody's attacking somebody for their political beliefs. And I just look at that and I go, China and Russia are laughing. Like, this is an article about nothing to do with politics. And so it's just, that's how bad it is. And I think that there's a huge opportunity for those that are young and smart enough to find their way through it. I think a lot of people are asleep behind the wheel right now. And it's truly an opportunity for those that want to take the moment. So that's my pep talk.
Carpe diem, everybody. Carpe diem. That's my final words.
Some people use that phrase and don't actually live by it. They just say it because it sounds cool.
Or it looks great on a shirt in papyrus font.
See you next time.